Shopify reports one of the biggest revenue quarters ever. Slack sues Microsoft over antitrust allegations in the EU, and Intuit is cashing in on fintech. That and more on this week's PLG123. Let's dive in. So tab one is from Bloomberg and is about Shopify's recent earnings report, which was a monster. As you see here in the title, Shopify doubles its sales, which lots of companies double their sales, but it's important to note that Shopify is doing this at tens of billions of dollars of volume. So doubling at that scale is extremely impressive. Now, getting into some of the specifics, Shopify reported $30 billion worth of GMV in the quarter alone. So you annualize that, and that's $120 billion of annualized GMV. And that's the number that's growing over 100% year over year, 119% year over year to be exact. Now, Wall Street analysts expected a huge boost given COVID, but they thought it was going to be closer to 50%. So Shopify more than doubled even the most bullish analyst expectations for what growth was going to look like in the quarter. Shopify says that some of the categories driving the biggest adoption are not what we tend to think about as being Shopify categories historically. We tend to think about, at least I think about, DTC brands like Outdoor Voices and Away Suitcases and Warby Parker as being really in the core sweet spot of Shopify. And that is true. However, what's driving the growth is new types of merchants coming online. And Shopify specifically points to food, beverage, and tobacco, of all things, as being the main drivers. So expansion into these categories suggests that Shopify might become more of a competitor to grocery stores and mini markets and liquor stores, in addition to being the hub for cool DTC brands and products, which is how I've historically thought about the business. Tab 2. Tab 2 is from TechCrunch and is about Slack suing Microsoft. Slack files an antitrust complaint in the EU over Microsoft Teams. Their allegations are that Microsoft is up to its old tricks and using its monopoly power in order to push the adoption of new products. We saw this back in the day with antitrust allegations coming against Microsoft with the way that they treated Internet Explorer, and now we're seeing it potentially with Teams as well, at least according to Slack. So Slack's specific allegation is that Microsoft is bundling Teams in an unfair way with Office 365 and effectively forcing adoption of Teams and blocking out competitors in an anti-competitive way. So as we've talked about many times on the PLG123, this is the power of being a platform, and it shows the leverage that you have. However, you have to be careful in how you wield that leverage because you can go too far at times. We don't know. We'll see what happens over the course of this lawsuit, but it's clear that Slack believes that's the case. Now, some of the other specific allegations that Slack is making is that it's saying that Microsoft is forcing installation for millions of Teams and blocking its removal and hiding the true cost to enterprise customers. So they're also, in effect, not only making an anti-competitive argument, but they're also making an argument that this is bad for consumers or bad for end users. Now, antitrust allegations are certainly serious if they're founded in truth. However, I do find it a little bit amusing that Slack, for the last number of months and quarters, keeps saying publicly that Microsoft is not a competitor. And they keep trying to downplay Teams and say, those guys, call me when they matter, right? But we see here a difference in words versus behavior, that Slack actually is starting to feel the heat from Microsoft a bit, and they're trying to do something about it. Now, I have to imagine that Slack is also feeling the heat from Google because we've been talking about how Google has been bundling Meet and Chat and Rooms and with Gmail and with G Suite. And so Slack is kind of getting squeezed from both ends of the huge platform players out there. Slack's whole response to this thing is that they expect to win with a better product long-term in the market, but that in the short term, they want to make sure that users and consumers are not unfairly taken advantage of. So we will see. Will Slack win in the courts? Will Slack win in the open market? Will they win in both? Will they lose in both? We're going to keep an eye on it here at the PLG123. And tab 3. Tab 3 is from Product Hunt and is about Intuit cashing in on the fintech revolution. The specific product that Intuit is launching is called QuickBooks Cash. And it's not rocket science. It's a bank account attached to your QuickBooks instance. Now, this is a very logical thing to have happen rather than managing your actual money in a separate online banking portal and then managing your accounting in a separate SaaS application. Why can't those two things just be coupled and together in one? But look, most businesses already have a bank account. And so what's the added benefit or the added value prop for why somebody would want to bank with QuickBooks rather than bank with Bank of America? So jumping over to the actual QuickBooks website and seeing how they talk about the product, we see some classic things that you would see from a normal bank or financial institution, which is our interest rate's better, we have lower fees. But I'd say the biggest thing here is instant deposit. Now, this is relatively similar to what we saw Shopify do with its recent foray into banking as well, which is that revenue comes through, payments come through, and instead of having to then transfer those payments and waiting for them to settle and getting the proof of funds and all that stuff before you can spend it, instead, because it's coming from a high trusted source, in this case, the payments are coming through Intuit's own rails, they're able to give you access to those funds immediately. And they also, by managing your finances, know if you're in a good shape or in bad shape. And so they can toggle that appropriately and provide effectively instant credit, if you will, to folks that they think are the most credit worthy. So like Shopify, this is being positioned in many ways as an ancillary bank account to your core bank account. You can see in the videos that they show is that you can manage both your QuickBooks Cash funds as well as your normal online banking funds in the same centralized portal. But what I can imagine happens over time is two things. One, that where the cash flows at first is probably where most of the cash stays long term. So while you might have multiple bank accounts in QuickBooks Cash specifically for convenience, over time it might eat more of the wallet share, literally more of the wallet share or the bank account share. And two, a little bit more similar to what Shopify has done is that when you're a de novo company, a de novo startup setting up for the very first time, if QuickBooks can effectively negate your need to ever go to Bank of America or another mainline bank, then they will have you from the very beginning and ostensibly continue to retain you over the course of your lifetime. And the last thing that I'll say is that this is also a very great move from a stickiness standpoint for QuickBooks, because not only is it painful to switch out your accounting package, but if you also have to switch out your online banking along with it and your entire bill pay infrastructure and so on, the likelihood that you're going to do it is actually reduced significantly, and it extends the lifetime value for QuickBooks customers. So that does it for this week on the PLG123. Make sure to follow me on LinkedIn for more daily PLG content, and stay tuned for our weekly episode drops of the PLG123 coming at you right here on LinkedIn. That does it, and hope you guys are having a great week. Take care.